African Heritage Organization, and I greet you. Thank you for coming out tonight. This cool, chilly, wonderful night to be out. Thank you for coming out. Isn't it on? Can you hear me now? Yes. So do I have to repeat? I'm Althea Tweeten, President of the West Orange African Heritage Organization. Greetings and welcome. I'm so happy that our organization is sponsoring this debate. I thank you for coming out. I want you to sit back and relax, have your questions ready, and the league will give you the information as to how we will go forward. Thank you so much and have a good evening.
Thank you. Hello everybody, I'm Donna Gariglia. I'm the moderator for tonight. I am with the League of Women Voters of the Morristown area. I'm a trained moderator with the League of New Jersey. And I know I can tell just by speaking with some of you, if you don't, the League, when we run our forums, follow very strict protocol. So I'm going to go over a couple things so you understand that although it's sponsored by the West Orange African Heritage Organization, it's in conjunction with the League of Women Voters. So I know it looks like you're a great audience. I think your candidates are going to answer the questions the best they can. We'll get to as many of them as we can. So first, I just want to let you know a little bit about the League of Women Voters. We're a nonpartisan political organization that encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. Empowering voters, defending democracy is our message. Elections and voting are core concerns for the League. We are committed to providing fact-based information about issues and positions candidates take on those issues to help voters make their own decisions and participate in the electoral process. We would like to make you aware there is a public ballot question on the November 6th ballot. The question concerns securing our children's future bond act. As a service to the voting public, the League of New Jersey Education Fund has prepared an analysis of the ballot question with reasons to vote either pro or con. You can go to lwvmorrisarea.org or the New Jersey League website, and that information will be listed there with the pros and cons. You can also go to the website vote411.org, and that provides a one-stop site for information on all aspects of voting in New Jersey, as well as information on all candidates up and down the ballot. As a courtesy to the candidates, please now turn off your cell phones and other electronic devices. Please refrain from taking pictures or video during the debate. The League of Women Voters never supports or opposes candidates for office or political parties. Any use of the League name or footage from this debate in campaign materials, literature, or advertising of any kind, including internet, cable, or television, has not been authorized by the League. At this time, right before I introduce the candidates, I would like to just go over the rules. The audience questions and candidates' remarks must follow the League policy of being concerned with issues and not personalities. I will not allow any abusive, personalized, or irrelevant questions or remarks. So that we can move along in the time allotted and hear equally from each candidate, we ask that you hold your applause until the very end. Audience questioners should use the cards that are being provided to you to write their questions. The questions should address only those issues that come before this body to be voted upon. The moderator will avoid redundancy and select the questions to ensure a range of topics. At this time, I would like to introduce the candidates. Right on my closest to me is Susan McCartney, then Monica Perkowski, Cindy Matute-Brown, Sue Scarpa, and Victor Cirillo. They will have a 2-minute opening, each candidate. They're going to start in alphabetical order, and then they'll do a 1.5-minute closing, the opposite, and they will have 1 minute to answer each of your questions. Okay, so if we could get started,
good evening, everyone. Cindy Matute-Brown, and I first want to thank the West Orange Heritage Organization and the Legal Women Voters, and as well as everyone who is here making this event possible. I moved to West Orange 18 years ago with my husband and 3 children because we were looking for a diverse community with great public schools, and this was it for us. Our children have, well, now they're young adults. They don't like when I say children, but the young adults have benefited from the amazing school communities and the communities that we've built here in West Orange. We have had the wonderful opportunity to see them go from St. Cloud to Roosevelt to Edison and graduate from the high school. So we love this community, and even though our children have already long since graduated from the high school, we remain committed to investing in our schools. I am an alum of Rutgers University, a very proud alum of Rutgers University, having earned degrees in English, Women and Gender Studies, and Criminal Justice. I look forward to continue my engagement as an advocate. I am a steering committee member with Essex Rising, and I enjoy the work of advocacy and social justice work. Thank you.
Okay, next we'll go to Mr. Cirillo.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Donna. To you and the Legal Women Voters for always making yourselves available, for these kind of affairs. And I also want to thank the African Heritage Organization for making it so convenient. I walked from around the corner from my house, so that was very convenient. Thank you very much, Althea. My name is Victor Cirillo. I live on Benvenue Avenue. I've been on the Township Council now for 2 terms, 8 years. Grew up in West New York, New Jersey. Moved to West Orange 20 years ago. Before that, I was born in El Salvador. I actually came to this country at the age of 9. My family and I were fleeing a civil war, and it was a difficult time, but public service is the way my family and I decided to give back to this country, greatest country in the world, open up the doors for us, and it's a pleasure to be here, to represent our neighbors, to represent our community. I'm running on a pretty solid track record, I believe. Over the last 10 years, West Orange is the lowest municipal property tax increase of any municipality in Essex County, and overall, 12 out of the 564 municipalities in the state of New Jersey. By comparison, Montclair property taxes have gone up by 30% during that same period. So I think we've done a decent job with respect to managing 25 cents of your tax dollar. That's what we do. We manage 25 cents, 25% of your tax dollar, and for that we extend police services, fire services, garbage pickup, snow removal, jitney services, senior services, health services, public parks, and so on and so forth. And I look forward to tonight's debate, and on November 6th, I hope you consider me for one of your 2 council votes. Thank you, Donna.
Thank you. Please, audience, again, no clapping till the very end. Next, we'll have Mrs. Susan McCartney.
Thank you to the Legal Women Voters and also to the African Heritage Group for hosting this event and trained Legal Women Voters. Thank you. So, my name is Susan McCartney. I've been a West Orange resident since 1975, spending my high school years on Hazel Avenue. In 1981, I became a homeowner. My husband Joe and I bought our first and only house here in West Orange in 1981, where we have raised 3 children, all educated in the public school system. I was an adjunct professor at Seton Hall University, adjunct professor at Montclair State University, and when my graduate thesis on education and administration was published, we again invested in West Orange in 1997 to establish First Mountain Preschool on Pleasant Valley Way in a building that used to be the New Jersey School of Ballet, which is now the Orator Congregation. As a West Orange business owner now for 20 years, having gone through the planning process, I have been determined to help others navigate our municipal land use codes and planning process. I served on the Planning Board's Technical Review Committee with the sole purpose of providing helpful planning information to all business and property owners. I have been a West Orange Chamber of Commerce member since 1997, serving on the Chamber Board of Directors to recruit, promote, and strengthen our business community. I was appointed to the Township Sustainable Jersey program in 2007. The grants and energy efficient municipal upgrades that I have initiated have had a direct impact on protecting our environment, as well as conserving our tax dollars. My community involvement includes being a council member since 2002, Planning Board Town Council Liaison, the Environmental Commission Town Council Liaison, West Orange Sustainable Jersey Coordinator, West Orange Chamber of Commerce member, West Orange Arts Council Liaison, which includes the Arts Council, Valley Arts, West Orange Board of Ed Town Council Liaison.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And next we'll go to Ms. Monica Perkowski.
So thank you again. I'll reiterate that to the African Heritage Organization and the League of Women Voters for your event tonight. I am also a lifelong resident of West Orange who's been committed to serving our community since an early age. I ran for this office in 2016, and now I'm back again as an independent candidate to earn your vote. Professionally, I've worked as a marketing leader for almost 2 decades at several different financial services firms, currently at Meyer & Associates. Specialties for me include brand advocacy, market analysis and insight, and project management. I'm an active volunteer in a number of organizations inside and outside of West Orange, and my education includes a Bachelor of Science from the College of New Jersey and an MBA in Marketing and Finance from NYU Stern. As an independent candidate, I offer a fresh perspective and new ideas to keep our communities thriving. So a couple things about what my beliefs are this year. I believe in the importance for municipalities to develop and execute strategic plans. I know we can do better at planning for smart growth. I believe in the power of resident feedback and participation, and I know we can do better at engaging seniors, new residents, and families to build a more inclusive community where people are encouraged to raise their hands to give back. I strongly believe in cooperation and collaboration, and that leadership should make decisions that benefit West Orange for the long term, after all due diligence is done and after multiple alternatives are exhausted. We can do better at fostering an environment where our elected officials are held accountable for what's been pledged. I trust that even with our differences, we can take steps to make our community a better place to live. I can commit to you an open mind, an independent viewpoint, and I hope after tonight you'll trust me to represent you for the next term.
Thank you, and we'll finish up with Mrs. Susan Scarpa.
Hi, I'm Susan Scarpa. I'm running for town council because I want to represent the people of West Orange, not as a politician, but as a businesswoman and an educator, experienced with balancing home.
I don't think the microphone's working.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I want to represent the West Orange residents as a businesswoman because, you there? Okay. Because three of my longtime neighbors and friends are moving from West Orange because they can no longer afford the property taxes. As I walk around our neighborhoods, meeting new and old residents, I hear from residents all the time, particularly those in their 60s, that they don't want to move out of West Orange, but they feel they have to because they can no longer afford the taxes. Some residents say they've been told that there's nothing we can do about our rising property taxes. 2 other townships in Essex County have lowered their taxes. And I think we could too, with good financial planning and sound management. Today in West Orange, too often politics prevails at the expense of the taxpayers. And I strongly believe that a fresh pair of eyes and a voice for all residents is desperately needed. As the people who know me best would tell you, I'm not a politician. My background is as a businesswoman and an educator. And I'm running for town council because I believe the town needs fewer politicians and more people who are able to tackle the difficult problems we face, like cutting taxes and balancing the budget, engaging in smart development, and making West Orange a safe and walkable community.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to go on to the question part of the format. We're going to actually start with Mr. Cirillo. The question is, what two important pieces of legislation have you enacted and why, if you have already served? And if you are running and haven't served yet, what are two pieces of legislation you would like to see enacted, and how would they benefit West Orange?
We have a lot of animal lovers in West Orange. I can tell you from going door to door, we have a lot of dogs, but we also have a lot of cats. One of the initiatives that that I'm proud of is the fact that we looked into the issue of stray cats, and we developed a program so that the cat population doesn't really increase. We're very proud of that. It was becoming a health issue. And with respect to the second item, I see we have 30 seconds left. I'm happy that I've supported the Main Street redevelopment project. It's coming along beautifully, and it has resulted in additional economic taxes coming into the Township of West Orange, so that we can lower the impact that that property taxes have on the regular homeowner.
Thank you. And next we'll go to Mrs. Susan McCartney.
So my legislative accomplishment include that I recently, my legislative accomplishments include I recently introduced two resolutions unanimously adopted by my town council colleagues. One was to support the Environmental New Jersey, Jersey Renews Charge EVC campaign to electrify New Jersey by expanding the use of electric vehicles for significant economic benefits and substantial emission reductions. Also, passed resolutions to urge the New Jersey State Senate to adopt common sense New Jersey gun control legislation passed by the New Jersey State Assembly. And I have been working since 2013 to seek alternate polling sites rather than using our public schools held vulnerable on election day. So.
Thank you. Ms. Perkowski is next.
Thank you. I haven't had the opportunity to actually pass anything yet, but if elected, I would certainly focus on moving our polling stations out of schools. We've heard a lot about the dangers that, particularly when school is in session, but even when not, about bringing residents and others into schools that invites potential intruders into a school during voting day. The second piece of legislation that I would support and vote for is establishment of a senior advisory board. That was something that I supported in 2016. I'm supporting it again this time. I think it's an important piece of getting our seniors more engaged in our town and being able to bubble up some of the ideas. I definitely support a bottom-up approach versus a top-down approach for what needs our seniors have in town.
Thank you. And next we'll have Ms. Scarpa.
I think it's really important that we give our residents more of a voice in our municipal government. The first and most important piece of legislation would be the Senior Citizens Advisory Board, the ordinance. There's no reason why that ordinance should not have been put through already. We know the seniors and many who care about seniors have been lobbying that for the longest time. I too have been an advocate for our seniors, and there is nothing wrong with giving our seniors a voice to give us an indication of what their needs are. The other thing that I think is very important that's been neglected is the Citizens Budget Advisory Committee. We had an ordinance, a resolution, I believe, a while ago to appoint a citizen, for each council member to appoint a citizen to that Budget Advisory Committee. And none have been appointed. I've worked with an informal committee, and only Joe Krakowiak has appointed someone to that committee. And that committee is very, very important for looking at our budget and giving us feedback.
Thank you. And Mrs. Matute-Brown.
Thank you. I have to echo the sentiments with respect to the Senior Citizen Advisory Board. I understand that our township does the best job they can do with providing the services offered presently to our senior citizens, but unfortunately there is holes that need to be filled, and the only way that we're going to be able to address our senior citizens is by listening to their lived experiences. I would love to have their voices go out, and their energies actually go out and do the research to bring back the information that we need to have a successful board. And the second thing I would push for is an ethics board. I think that we have gained a national distrust in government officials, and we need to start rebuilding it. And I believe that an ethics board for all municipal level elected officials is something that would help bring that transparency and accountability that we desperately need to rebuild trust in this community.
Thank you. Okay, again, if you would please refrain from clapping, because then it slows everything down and you all came out to hear everybody's answers. Okay, the next question, we're going to start with Mrs. Susan McCartney. People are complaining about high taxes, no bid or one bid contracts, and loss of trees. If elected or re-elected, how will you lead the town in a new direction?
I think we have been moving in that direction. I'm sorry, you're going to have to repeat the question. The trees and...
People are complaining about high taxes, no bid or one bid contracts, and loss of trees. If elected or re-elected, how will you lead the town in a new direction?
Okay, so I am the liaison to the Environmental Commission, and we have been reviewing the tree ordinance. We have not made the amendments yet. That's still in the review process. Part about the no bids, all of our contracts, we have to get a quote for everything that's under $6,000. We have to get a quote. $17,000 for all professional services, and all contracts go out for bid, and they've already been vetted through the state contract list, so we can use the vendors that are on that state contract list.
Thank you. Ms. Pruskowski?
So I think certainly with the trees, I look forward to the changes in the ordinance coming. I think that we need to empower our town forester to be able to enforce that ordinance and really push him to do so. Certainly having an ordinance on the books that's not enforced is useless. And regarding the contract perspective, I think that when it comes to bidding, we need to find ways to encourage us to get more bids. So for instance, with the garbage contract, I'd love to see our RFP that's out there offer a variety of options that people can bid for. So it doesn't exclude people that think the job is too big or they can't bid for it because it's a natural gas requirement. I'd love to see people or companies have the opportunity to almost do an ad hoc list of what services could be provided, which enables us to also decide what services make sense for the town at what cost.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Scarpa.
With respect to the tree ordinance, I am looking forward to having that rewritten, because we all know that the enforcement has been problematic. That's very, very important that we rewrite the ordinance and that we also enforce it effectively. With respect to the no bid contracts, if I were on the council, I would not vote for contracts that were over $10,000 that had not been competitively bid. I have written RFPs as a business consultant, and I know how they can be written to favor certain vendors. And if we did not get enough vendors, I would rebid it, send it back, and rewrite it, and send it back out until we had some competitive competition.
Thank you. And next, we'll have Mr. Cirillo.
Thank you very much, Donna. With respect to the trees, I was very disappointed to see a lot of trees go down in front of my home church, St. Joseph's. I live right across the street. So I became more engaged with some of the folks advocating for a stronger tree ordinance. We're working together with the Environmental Commission to do the best that we can to strengthen that tree ordinance. But what we have done also through the budget process, we extended the hours for the town forester so that he can do what he has to do in order to protect the amount of trees in our community. As it relates to the one bid contracts, I actually, in my professional life, I'm the executive director of the Newark Housing Authority. I went out to bid twice on garbage contract with no specifics, natural gas or anything. I had one response both times. And what it results in is if you keep going out and bidding, it results in an escalation in price, and that's something that we have to watch out for. Follow the local public contracts law, and we'll be looking out after a taxpayer. With respect to high taxes, since I have some time left,
I think
okay.
Thank you. And Mrs. Matute-Brown.
Thank you. With respect to high taxes, this is something that we've all are burdened with. I think that we need to look very closely at every line item in our budget and see where we can consolidate at the municipal level so that we can save some tax dollars. With respect to no bid contracts, we need to create a culture where we welcome proposals. If that means rewriting requests for proposals, then that's what we should be doing. Also, with respect to the trees, I think that it's very important to review and rewrite the ordinances that help ensure that our trees, which cover over 30% of our beautiful town, are in perfect condition and survive and are sustainable for years to come.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have quite a few questions about term limits. So the question to all the candidates is, what are your views on term limits, and do you think 2 years for Towns Council is enough? And we're going to start this time with Ms. Perkowski.
Thank you. So I'm in support of term limits across the board, whether it's local or national level. My personal opinion is that 2 years is not enough for a council term limit, but 2 terms would be sufficient across the board. I think that implementing term limits, causes or it forces some more political accountability, so it speeds up the process for people to get done what they intend to get done, and it lets the public hold them accountable. Additionally, I think it encourages a more inclusive community where people are happy to step up and jump in because they're not being discouraged from doing so, and we don't see the same leadership being elected year in and year out.
And next we'll go to Ms. Scarpa.
I believe term limits are important. I would hope that term limits could be enforced by the voters. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened to date. That would be the best way for it to happen. But since it hasn't, I really do think that we need a new blood in our town. We need fresh ideas. As I've gone around canvassing and knocking on doors and meeting people, I have met so many young families that have such talented people that could give so much to our community. I've already identified a couple of people and asked them to run for council. I also found somebody great for the planning board. And I just think we need to tap into all of our residents and use all of their talent.
Thank you. Ms. Matute-Brown.
Thank you. I am in support of term limits. I think it's very important, and I agree with Monica where 2 years is not enough, but 2 terms is certainly a limit that I would help to enforce. We absolutely need fresh perspectives on our town council and leadership. I understand that the debate is if you get someone in there who's good and then you have to push them out, that might be concerning, but there's not just one person or 2 people in town that are capable of bringing new ideas to the table, fresh ideas to the table, and quite frankly, it would certainly garner greater trust and transparency and accountability for the public when we are able to instill term limits to make sure that anything that seems nefarious, if you will, is certainly limited at best.
Thank you. Mr. Cirillo?
Yes, thank you very much. Term limits at the local level. I trust you, the voters. This is a democracy. This is the United States of America. Okay, I trust you that you're going to make the right choice. If you feel that Victor Cirillo is not doing a good job with respect to garbage pickup, law enforcement, quality of services in West Orange, vote me out of office and hold me accountable. I trust you. Term limits are anti-democracy, in my opinion. I believe, again, that the voters should have a right and should have a say in who they elect for office. At the national level, it's something to look at. There's gridlock at the federal level. I'm not on top of what's going on 100%. I just pay attention and go to work, pay attention to local politics, but it's something worth looking at. But at the local level, I trust you that you'll make the right decision on November 6th. Thank you, Don.
Thank you. And Mrs. McCartney.
Well, I really thought that question was geared for me because I will be seeking my 5th term on the town council, and since 2002 I have been the highest vote getter. So I think that the community decides about term limits, not legislation. I think of the graphically designed robotic mural that's just recently put on Main Street at the City Workshop building. that says, it's an Edison quote that says, what you do will be who you are. And when I did my introduction, I started to list all of the commissions that I have been an agent of change for the entire 16 years, and I hope with your vote I can continue to do so.
Thank you. The next question is regarding the Edison redevelopment. What is your vision for phase 2 and 3, and how will this enable the Main Street corridor to thrive? We'll start this question with Ms. Scarpa.
With all of the problems that we've had with the Main Street development, we all want it to be as successful as it could possibly be. And I really do hope that we can facilitate more commercial business development, because we all know that that is the challenge that we have in West Orange today. I believe if we had a town planner with commercial business experience and good strategic planning skills, we would be able to attract the kind of businesses that we need to West Orange and to that area as well.
Thank you. Next, Mrs. Matute-Brown.
I see, or I have a vision for a broader perspective when we're looking at phase 2 and phase 3. Phase 1 is already completed, and I'm hopeful that we take a step back and realize that some of the decisions that were made by the developer had a lack of vision. The fact that we cannot introduce restaurants into those facilities because there is no exhaust that was built there is something that, hindsight being what it is, we need to rely on someone who has professional business acumen to come in and help guide us. So I'm hoping that for phase 2 and phase 3 that we're able to take a step back and look at it with a broader vision of what the success would look like.
Thank you. Mr. Cirillo?
Thank you very much, Donna. Phase 2 is already in place. The issue has been voted on and it's moving forward, residential and commercial. Our objective, obviously, is to help use the redevelopment law to help repopulate the neighborhood and eventually bring in new life to downtown West Orange. I stand by phase 1, and I'm sure that phase 2 will be just as successful, bringing in more tax revenue to the township, as well as repopulating the downtown, so that our businesses, by the way, which the rate has gone down with respect to vacancies. It was like 44 3 years ago. We're down to 16 empty stores. So I want to thank the Downtown West Orange Alliance for the great work that you're doing, and together, along with the Main Street redevelopment, we'll move. We're going to keep moving West Orange forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. McCartney?
So let's start with phase 1. Phase 1 was approved back in 2006. We did see an economic downturn in 2008, got their financing back together, and the residential over retail is 100% occupied. There are 40 COs already in the Battery building, and they just came online in May. So we're seeing great strides there. The phase 2, the approved plan there starts at the homes, their townhomes, they will start at $440,000. That's certainly an economic viability for our downtown residential area. I actually voted for that plan. When we were voting on the plan, I voted for less retail space so that it didn't become a funnel for the businesses along Main Street, because the residential there is supposed to generate the redevelopment for the rest of the town. We are already seeing buildings across the street from the phase 1 property that have sold for $1 million. These are not numbers that we have not seen in many years.
Thank you. And Ms. Prokowski?
So regardless of what we thought about how phase 1 was implemented, I'm pleased to see that there's progress and people living there. The eyesore that we looked at for 10 years is gone. So I'm encouraged by that. And as phase 2 has already been decided and we're progressing in that direction, I look forward to welcoming the new residents. And very much looking forward to having some of those businesses occupied. I think that it's a game changer for our Main Street. I believe that more of those vacant buildings, as some of these retail properties come in, will start to dissipate, and it will. And once we have exciting businesses in there, and I know we don't have a lot of influence over what those businesses are, but I look forward to having people from all over the town coming down to Main Street, including people outside of the town, and really taking Main Street to the next level.
Thank you. Okay, the next question is, what plan or guideline do you have in place to scrutinize the budget and be brave enough to cut wasteful spending? And actually, we're going to start with Ms. Matute-Brown.
So I would like to question and revisit the fact that we have had the same private insurance carrier for our municipal employees for over 50 years. That is a concern. We all understand, because we all pay for our insurance premiums, that it is at a national high and it is a national crisis. Paying a broker to come up with these plans, to offer these plans for our municipal employees, it's a lot of money that we spend. So I would like to start there at looking at bidding out our insurance. I would also like to start looking at other options with respect to our waste management and our recycling. I understand that contract was just passed, but I would like to revisit how those RFPs were done. Also, I think that we can look to consolidate some departments within the administration and the municipal level, so that we can have a leaner budget and we can reassess those dollars for other projects that are needed.
Thank you. And next we'll go to Mr. Cirillo.
Thank you very much. Over the last 8 years, we have cut down the municipal workforce by 50 employees. And just so that we know, and we look back, the municipality of West Orange, at this point, we are paying for health benefits on a 1-to-1 ratio with respect to the amount of township employees, 374 to 374 in terms of retirees. Health pensions continue to rise. The only way we can make up and try to control the level of fixed expenditures is via consolidation of services, perhaps looking at consolidating some services with neighboring municipalities, and also bringing in new economic or commercial tax base. Other than that, it's mostly fixed costs. Police and fire is costing us 60% of your municipal tax dollar, which averages these days $274 per household.
Thank you. And next we'll go to Mrs. McCartney.
So in our budget relates to contractual obligations and health insurance. The comment that was made about insurance, with our broker, we have saved $500,000 in health benefits this year, so that is not something that I would want to ignore. The garbage contract keeps coming up. I'm sorry to hear about that. We tried to do shared services with Board of Ed. Unfortunately, that didn't work. That garbage contract has come out to be $17 per month for you, and it totals $174 per year. Don't think we could have done better than that. Our services, and the only way we can cut services, because as my colleague said, our employees are already down. We do not replace employees. We spread the work to other employees. We do go line by line through our town budget. And our services include, I'm going to read, public library, jitney shuttles, snow removal, shredding services, garbage removal, single stream recycling, recreation department, fire department, police, leaf removal, senior services, and fireworks. If you would like to cut anything, let us know.
Next we'll go to Ms. Perkowski.
So I understand that we've got a lot of services in town and many contractual obligations in our budget, but I think we can't keep stretching the taxpayers' responsibility by the full amount allowed by law year after year after year. So there's got to be a way to take a harder look at some of the expenses that are ancillary expenses. So $17 a month for the garbage contract doesn't sound like a lot, but $17 a month for garbage and $17 a month for something else and $17 a month for something else certainly adds up in the end. So I think it's important from a procedural standpoint. You know, we've got a long budget day in the spring, an 8-hour budget day where directors come and present their budget. Maybe we divide that up. Maybe we look for other suggestions. Maybe we give the council more time to analyze each of those requests and come back with alternate suggestions. I think it's too important, and it is the #1 complaint that I hear when I'm talking to people, that people just can't afford to live here at these continual increases.
Thank you. And Ms. Scarpa?
I actually sat down and worked with the Citizens Budget Advisory Committee informally, since we really didn't have any appointees, and now, thank goodness, we have one appointee who has done a very, very nice report on just this. And he gives a lot of areas where we can cut. I'd be happy to sit down with anyone who wanted to review that at a later time, because it's just too much to go into now, but I'll give you the highlights. Our insurance cost to insure our employees, that's about $13 million. We have an insurance contract that has not been competitively bid since the turn of the century. For 20 years, we've had the same insurance company. They're compensated based upon the total dollar cost of the insurance. So they have no incentive to get us a low rate of insurance. Their incentive is to have it as high as possible, so they get the biggest commissions, which right now are between $400,000 and $500,000.
Thank you. Okay, the next question is, do you support fair and welcoming policies for West Orange? And we will start with Mr. Cirillo.
Thank you very much, Donna. Yes, I do. We actually drafted a fair and welcoming policy. It's ready to go before the Township Council, along with Essex Rising and the Police Department, Chief Abbott, the administration. We sat down, we drafted a policy. It's ready to go, and we may be presenting that before the council in the next few months.
Thank you. And next we'll go to Mrs. McCartney.
So I believe we already are a fair and welcoming community. I have not seen the draft of that resolution that my colleague spoke of. What I understand that has been debated is a provision that's in the fair and welcoming resolution that is asking for the municipality not to spend any municipal resources if there is someone that needs to be investigated. I don't know that I agree with that. I know other municipalities do not agree with that policy, so I'm hoping that that will be negotiated. But I do understand that there is an Ann Milgram memo that is coming up, and I'm hoping that Ann Milgram was the Attorney General back in 2007. That directive is being looked at, and I'm hoping that that will be part of the new policy that will be presented to the council.
Thank you. And next we'll go to Ms. Fakowski.
I'm in favor of fair and welcoming policies. I think I also agree that West Orange is a fair and welcoming town, but I recognize the fact that we have neighbors who either don't feel that way or aren't comforted by just verbally sharing that fact. So I think it makes sense for us to have a policy in place that neighbors can point to. I don't believe, I haven't seen this draft that was referenced, but I don't believe that it would create a situation where if there really was a problem for an investigation, that would be prevented from doing so. We do have some state statutes that dictate when our police officers are able to ask about immigration status, and that doesn't change with the ordinance. So I'm looking forward to see some of the new text.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Ms. Scarpa.
Yeah, I believe that we should have a fair and welcoming policy, and I believe most townships should have fair and welcoming. I believe a lot of it begins in our schools. We have so many children. I attended a Hispanic Heritage Association flag raising, and I was shocked to realize that we have residents from 25 different Spanish-speaking countries living right here in our township. And it's so important that these young children feel part of our community. I was shocked to see that the ones who performed were not even students from our community, and they should be. We as a community, particularly in our schools, should be doing a lot more to integrate all of our children into our community and celebrate all of our cultures.
Thank you. And Ms. Matute-Brown.
Thank you. I absolutely support a fair and welcoming policy. I sat on the steering committee of fair and welcomings with Essex Rising and helped draft the resolution. I also participated in discussions with the administration wherein the language that we wanted with respect to police directives, not deputizing our officers, therefore expending our resources in doing the work of ICE, which is not a law enforcement agency, was denied by the administration. So I'm interested to see what the new resolution is, because as those of us in Essex Rising who sat and helped draft the original proposal, I've not seen a second proposal that Mr. Cirillo is talking about, but I'd be interested in and looking forward to reviewing it.
Thank you. The next question has to do with the Essex Green as an area of redevelopment. So there's a couple questions about this. Would the candidates answer the question, would you vote to declare Essex Green as an area of redevelopment? And as an area of redevelopment, qualifying the developer with a tax abatement. What are your, and we'll start with Mrs. McCartney.
So I am on the planning board, and I did vote this plan to be an area in need of redevelopment. I wanted to say that under the regulation of the local redevelopment housing law, there is a lot of controversy out here about that this was a blighted community, a blighted area. It is not a blighted area, but in 1992, the local redevelopment and housing law added additional amendments and provisions. So it was decided on the planning board that criteria B, which is discontinuous use of buildings, I'm going fast because I have 30 seconds, and D, areas with buildings that needed improvement, met the criteria for B and D from the new housing redevelopment law. I did vote yes on this because I want the town to have part in this process. We already have a plan in place for the Executive Drive, which had 58% vacancy. Taxpayers spent $4 million in tax appeals, and
Thank you.
we want this to work.
Ms. Perkowski.
So as Susan mentioned, the vote has already happened, so it is already designated an area in need of redevelopment. If I was voting at that time, I would have not voted in favor of designating that Essex Green that way. I'm not opposed to redevelopment designation. I think it's a very useful tool, and I think it's an avenue for us to breathe new life into areas that certainly are underutilized or eyesores. I don't argue the fact that it met the criteria. I just argue the fact that it was necessary after that.
Thank you. Next we'll go to Ms. Scarpa.
I think it was a big mistake to declare Essex Green an area of redevelopment. There's absolutely no reason why we needed to give Clarion Partners, a multi-billion-dollar company, open up ourselves up to giving them tax breaks at the expense of the West Orange taxpayers. They can develop that property. They paid a lot of money for that property. They have the resources to develop it. And if anything, we need to promote policies that are going to give the West Orange taxpayers a better deal.
Thank you. Mr. Cirillo?
Thank you very much. The redevelopment law does two things. Number one, it allows a municipality to control the zoning or what goes in a certain part of an area of the municipality. And number two, it helps through tax abatements in attracting investment if it's necessary. There's no tax abatements at Essex Green. We need to find a sensible solution for that area. Right now, I voted yes on declaring an area in need of redevelopment to control zoning and to allow the municipality a say in what goes on in that area. With respect to tax abatements, right now, the way the market's going, it's a different market from when we voted for phase one. I couldn't tell you that I would vote for a tax abatement, but it's a work in progress. I see that the owner is already investing without any tax abatement. So the plan is working, and it's nice to see investment in our community.
Thank you. Okay, there's a couple questions about senior transportation. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I feel like I'm
Matute-Brown.
Okay. No, I would not have voted the Essex Green area an area in need of redevelopment. While I do support and also believe that redevelopment is necessary, but it's also necessary when done responsibly. what we've done with Essex Green is actually opened up the door for a tax abatement. I realize that there is not one now, but I recall several community meetings and wherein our mayor said we're not talking about a tax abatement yet. And also, I'm very concerned that it is Essex Green, but there's also an additional, it's actually a total of 70 acres. So we have not touched that. We have not seen plans for that area yet. So I'm very cautious as to whether or not that door has been opened and we can't close it. With respect to a seat at the table with zoning, I mean, we have a zoning board. That is our seat at the table. So I wouldn't have voted for that.
Thank you. Again, the next question has to do, seniors are almost a quarter of the West Orange population. There's a couple questions all about transportation in West Orange for seniors, and pointed out there was some criticism in the recent senior citizen survey. So especially pertaining to transportation, how would you help solve that problem? And we'll start with Ms. Perkowski.
Great. So as you mentioned, there's been a number of complaints over the last year or so about senior transportation. I think we do have, we're making every effort to run the senior buses and take seniors places. What we're not doing is adapting as needs change. So as doctors move out of town or even just over the border of town, to restrict transportation to then certain conditions or certain treatments is extremely unfair. Certainly we can't go out and buy 5 more jitneys to take seniors around, so I think we need to explore partnerships like other towns have done. Certainly in the Seniors and Taxis in Montclair is a wonderful program that cuts taxi rides by 50% for qualifying seniors, and the town is partnering with those taxi companies to offer that. We've got Uber exploring partnerships in different cities, some as close as Summit. So other avenues, we need people in place that are to go out and look at some of these innovative ideas, to not just put another jitney in, which will cost the town more money, but to explore more cost-effective options.
Thank you. Ms. Scarpa?
Yes, we are doing, I think, the best we can, but I don't think we have the resources to actually manage the senior jitney appropriately. I had reached out to Katie York in Montclair quite a while ago and actually brought Joe Krakowiak to meet her to take a look at some of the innovative things that they're doing there that Mrs. Perkowski just recommended. I believe we need to look at private and public partnerships and volunteer efforts and various other ways to service our seniors, because they are not being serviced now, and it is a serious area of need. We have seniors who can't get to medical appointments. Mrs. Morelli chauffeurs them around. It's really, really a situation that needs our immediate attention.
Thank you. Mrs. Matute-Brown?
I think one of the things we can start doing is supporting the Senior Citizen Advisory Board, because they would help us find solutions to this concern. I know that Princeton has also invested in transportation and shared services. That's certainly something that some of our volunteer seniors have already looked at and can help us implement. But for the immediate purposes, the fact that we do not collect the data, how do we know what issues we have to address the issues that are persistent in transportation? The fact that we have a limit for groceries, it's 2 bags of groceries. And listen, if you have diapers that you need to buy, adult diapers, they're taking 1 bag. Where are the rest of their groceries going? So I think that we absolutely need to listen to the seniors to actually understand these issues and address them. So data collection in order to be able to immediately address those concerns is something that we need to do.
Thank you. Mr. Cirillo?
Thank you very much. The issue of transportation came out of the Degnan House. I actually sit on that board, and I've spoken with Debbie Solinardi to make sure that we properly post the information on the bulletin boards. We did have at the beginning a couple of residents come out of the Rena House, but it's a matter of customer service. We do have options with the County of Essex also being available, and some other options were mentioned with respect to being a little bit more creative. We do have a full-time senior services coordinator, as well as a health officer that provides senior services that's also full-time. We make home visits out of the health department, and we extend health services as well out of the health department. So we're one of the only communities, by the way, that has a full-time senior services coordinator. There's not that many out there, and we're going to continue funding that, and you have my wholehearted support on that expenditure.
And Mrs. McCartney.
Thank you. I do have the results of the senior survey, and we did find out that there was greater need for communication and greater need for transportation. We do have 6 jitneys right now and a part-time driver to get residents where they need to go. We are seeing it with chamber members and doctors merging, and Summit Medical and Overlook Hospital, that many seniors have appointments in these areas. The town years ago did not travel out of town, and the town is making every consideration to get our residents to where they need to go. The more and more I hear about the Senior Advisory Board, the more and more I learn that our health department is a model for the state, and that the fire department is doing inspections. The public works department has a register of people that are on dialysis to make sure that their homes are plowed. Police department has a register ready to have an accountability of our residents that may need help. We have home visits to all of our registered nurses.
Thank you. The next question is, what will you do to make sure we get our fair share of state and county funds for West Orange? And we'll start with Ms. Scarpa.
I believe that we need to work a little bit more collaboratively and enhance our relationships with the county. Everyone knows that there are various problems with getting traffic solutions in place. We do our best, and at times it works, at times we really don't get the cooperation that we need. And I think if we can enhance our relationships with the county, we would get a lot further.
Thank you. Ms. Matute-Brown.
So as most of you are already aware, I am very brand new to throwing my hat in the ring in politics, and it's been quite the learning experience, quite the eye-opener. I think that we need to start rebuilding relationships with the county at the county level. I think that we need to show up as residents to our West Orange Democratic County Committee meetings, so that I'm a firm believer that there is power in the people, and if we show up and build those relationships and bonds, that we can improve our communications and therefore open the door, or continue to open the door, for addressing the issues that perplex so many of us in town, because of all of our major roadways are county roads. So we're kind of at a standstill because of whatever history there is, but we need to kind of wipe the slate clean, if you will, and start rebuilding that relationship with the county.
Thank you. Mr. Cirillo.
There are 2 areas that I would lobby at the state level, and that I have lobbied in the past. The first one is the cap on your property taxes. As you know, during the tax reform at the federal level, it was capped at $10,000. We're in the process of looking into creating a nonprofit. The governor's office has extended that option so that we can continue writing off more than $10,000 of our local property taxes through that vehicle, through that nonprofit vehicle. That would be really helpful for our senior citizens, especially those on fixed incomes. The second item is an item that really bothers me. Every pole that you see out there on the streets, every utility pole is taxed. There's a tax that's collected by the state that should be coming back to the municipalities where those utility poles are at. The state, over time, over the last 80 years, has been keeping more and more of those funds and not returning it to the municipalities. It's something that results in hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue that we're losing out. We need to get that money back.
Thank you. Mrs. McCartney.
With 62% of your tax bill going to the school board, I was very glad to see on the state level that the school funding formula has been revised. The Township of West Orange is due to receive $25 million over the next 7 years. Our relationship with the county, I find through the planning process, has been receptive. There have been issues that have come, just looking at the Pedestrian Safety Commission that was initiated a year or two ago. We have the county directly responding to the issues there. We have the light at Alyssa Drive on Pleasant Valley Way. We have the beacon now working on Pleasant Valley Way. You're right, many of our roadways are county roads. We have our Main Street improvement working with the county on that. We have very receptive. On the planning board, we have asked the county for numerous times to put better signage along Northfield because of all of the activity at the zoo.
Thank you.
So I believe we have a good relationship with the county.
And Ms. Perkowski.
I certainly am also an advocate of continuing to improve this relationship with the county. If it's gotten better in the last couple of years, that's great, and we've certainly seen some evidence of that, such as the street light and some of the speed limit changes. So I believe as a fresh voice and someone who doesn't carry any prior history, that invites open communication with some of those county members. I also think that aside from just addressing road issues, we bring in for county property many people here every year. And really, how is West Orange benefiting from that? So I think it's an opportunity for us to explore alternate solutions with the county. Are there programs in place where we can offer specials for restaurants or shops that the county helps us subsidize? Are there different ways that we can think outside the box with the county to keep the people coming into West Orange for the zoo or for the reservation in West Orange benefiting our businesses as well?
Thank you. Okay, the next question, there's a couple about this. How important do you view recreational activities, and are you comfortable with the current ordinance governing the granting of permits for recreational activities? Another person who brought up the issue of, do you support the permitting of town fields to owners of sponsoring clubs who are West Orange residents? And we'll start with Mrs. Matute-Brown.
I do. Our children benefited from the use of the recreational fields through their sports club and at the high school. And I'm sorry, I was distracted. So I would support and continue to support that ordinance that allows our sports clubs to continue to grow its membership and to give our children the much needed exercise that they need away from screen time. So I am absolutely in support of that ordinance.
Thank you. Mr. Cirillo.
In the new capital budget, we have improvements to the lighting system as well as security cameras in our parks. We're just being proactive and listening to the residents. It's something that's very important. Recreation is an important component of what we do as a community, and I wholeheartedly support investing in our parks and recreation. As I mentioned, is one of the services that we extend for that 25 cents of your tax dollar. That also includes police, fire, garbage pickup, snow removal, senior services, health services, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. McCartney?
So I'll start with just an example that I do agree with recreational investment in our town. We are a bedroom community. We have 11 public schools and private schools in town. We want the children to be actively involved, and the adults as well as coaches and volunteers. I said, as an example, we were criticized a few years back about wasteful spending on the splash pad at the town pool. The bids came in at about $300,000. We were given a since it's the Open Space and Recreation Trust Fund, we received a $150,000 grant to put toward that bid and reduce the price, half price. The engineer went back, made adjustments to that, and that work came in at under $100,000. With the splash pad now, we have record numbers in membership, so that's just one example of investing in our town for our families.
Thank you. Ms. Perkowski?
I also agree. I think recreation is vital to West Orange and our residents and our families. Certainly, I can't imagine discouraging children from getting out and about and away from the cell phones. But I think that that investment is another way to keep West Orange residents in West Orange. So we hear a lot about people exiting town to go find things in our surrounding towns. So that's an appeal, and the recreational facilities we have here are certainly, excellent facilities. I also think that that type of investment helps us look for other opportunities for income for the town. So things like OSPEC, building that up and promoting that more widely gives people the opportunity to come in and rent the space. So not only does that help promote West Orange to those that aren't familiar with it, but it's also an income potential for the town.
Thank you. And Ms. Scarpa?
I think it's very important to support and to put some money into recreational facilities as well. I think it's one of the things that attracts young families to West Orange and young families to our town would be having really good parks and recreation facilities. So I would definitely think that would be an area where we should make some money.
Thank you. The next question is, do you support the hiring of a town planner? And we'll start with Mr. Cirillo.
Right now, we're spending $30,000 a year for the town planner as the base salary, and we also have Mr. Lepore, who has over 30 years of experience as a licensed engineer, performing the planning roles. I think, as we mentioned, we're trying to keep property taxes down, municipal taxes down. All we have is a quarter to play with. I don't support another $200,000 salary for a new planner. With respect to economic development, West Orange was built the way it was built. What we have to do is reinvest and revitalize our downtown, and I think we've done that. As I mentioned, we only have 16 stores out of 44 that were vacant 3 years ago. Redevelopments coming in is energizing the downtown. And now with Essex Green, seeing investment there, I think we're doing a decent job. I'm looking forward to working on the master plan, the town's master plan, which is currently being revamped. And I'm going to make sure that it can not only the current part-time planner, but as well Mr. Lepore extends their expertise.
Thank you. Mrs. McCartney.
So I too believe that if taxes is the first and foremost on everyone's mind, adding additional salary and health benefits to a full-time planner doesn't make any sense. We do have a planner. His base salary is $30,000. We have an outside source that works with our engineering department and all of our planning and zoning applications. Having this planner that also works in other municipalities brings creative ideas to us. So as we do ask stakeholders to get involved with the master plan, you will be a part of the process. The planner also brings in new ideas, fresh ideas, and our engineer with his base knowledge of 30 years has been helpful on every application. So I do not agree with hiring a new planner.
Thank you. Ms. Perkowski.
So I only have 60 seconds, and there's so much to say. Many of you know in the room that I introduced this idea in 2016, and it's been my biggest thing for the last 2 years. I'm glad to see others have agreed with that at that point. We obviously haven't made any moves in that direction, but Mr. Lepore has a job, so his job shouldn't be planning. I think that this is a critical investment in our future. I think it's absolutely worth the money. We keep hearing numbers like $200,000 thrown out. The director of development in Montclair makes $115,000, and I think that's well worth the investment. That's much less than our current CFO or business administrator works, and they will bring and guide the vision that this town so desperately needs, and we need to know where we're going to go in the next 15, 20, 25 years. We've got a terrible reputation for small businesses coming in and trying to navigate the business, the permit, the zoning maze. That director of development in Montclair guides those businesses through that process.
Thank you. Ms. Scarpa.
I strongly believe that we need a town planner. I think one of the problems in our community is that we don't do strategic planning in a number of areas. And if we had a professional town planner with commercial business development experience, they would develop a strategic plan that would attract businesses and create a vision that engages all of the residents of our community. It's, I think, one of the most vital and vital things we need right now.
Thank you. And Ms. Matute-Brown.
I do have to agree that it's time that we look at our budget again and consolidate departments so that we can afford and not increase and further burden our tax budget on our residents. But it's time that we have a full-time planner. We need someone who is not just going to sit in, not that Ms. Lepore does, but look at where we are, not just the downtown Main Street, but look at the 5 different areas in West Orange that we can activate to have more businesses. A business planner should be an ambassador, if you will, to attract businesses, to streamline permitting processes, to create a culture where businesses want to not only come but thrive. We have to have someone who has a vision for walkability. We need to start with a full-time planner because we've been stagnant, and I think it's time that we move forward with someone that has vision and can add value to what West Orange is to create dynamic communities.
Thank you. The next question, too, I'm going to kind of try to combine or give you. It's about how should the community be involved in local government? Should municipal government include official organizations to advise on policy? And if you want to comment on any regarding public projects around town currently. And we'll start with Mrs. McCartney.
So I think, again, in my introduction, I talked about the many commissions and organizations that I already serve on. So we already do have plenty of people in the community that volunteer their time. I'll tell you again that we have the Environmental Commission that works diligently, again, to protect our environment in many ways and to reduce our taxes, conserve our tax dollars. We have the Sustainable Jersey team that's part of our green team with the Environmental Commission. Looking for grants, we have brought in many grants that offset our tax base. We have the Chamber of Commerce that does plenty to recruit new businesses in town. We have the Arts Council that is a full complement of volunteers that work throughout the town on various events, trying to create a transit village with Valley Arts, the Arts Council, at the redevelopment site on Central Avenue. We have the shared services or town council liaison with the Board of Education.
Thank you.
Police department, I want to mention Operation Hope with the police department. We have plenty of organizations for people to volunteer.
Thank you. So I think it's extremely important to get the community more engaged. And I do agree that the existing commissions are one valuable way to do that. I think the problem we face is people, A, don't understand the opportunities that are out there, and B, don't understand how those types of commissions function. So I think we do have a big issue in town with communication, and this lends itself to this feel that we've got this lack of transparency. Partially, I think it's because we do not do a good job at communicating. So I think there's a ton of opportunities. We have to get beyond just the Facebook page and the website, which is not user-friendly and difficult to navigate. So I think certainly when we can invest in changing our website and certainly keeping the social channels flowing, but there's other things. We need to better engage our local media, whether it's TAP, Chronicle, or other. We need to extend and look for different ways to get mailing lists out there and invite people to join. I've met so many people who are willing to raise their hand and volunteer but don't know how to do it. So not everyone can come to a council meeting and not everyone wants to watch them on TV. So I think this needs to be one of our top priorities as well.
Ms. Scarpa?
I think that's another one of our greatest challenges is to engage all the members of our community in shaping the direction of our beautiful township. As I've gone out there and I've gotten around and I've knocked on doors, I found that most of the residents know very little about what goes on in our community. And once they're educated a bit, they're really interested. We really need to do a better job of, rather than passively having our residents sit on committees after decisions have been made and we kind of know where we're going, we need to get residents more involved in planning and shaping the direction of our community.
Thank you. And next, Mrs. Matute-Brown.
like many of you, if you've attended any of our council meetings or board meetings, right, we're spectators. And I don't think that that benefits our progress in moving forward when we are not a part of the process. As stakeholders, we need to be engaged. And I realize in education, when we have open house, teachers will say, well, parents don't come. We advertise. It's not enough. We have to meet our residents where they are to make sure that they're informed and that they get engaged. I don't think that coming to a council meeting after a decision that has been taken that really hasn't included the diverse voices and needs of our community is detrimental for us all. So also, when I sit at the town council meetings and I see 5 people at the dais, I'm thinking they have full-time jobs. How can they possibly get this all done? When we bring communities together, solutions are born. So I think that committees are absolutely necessary to enhance what we do at the government local level, and to make sure that we are representing all of the voices in our town.
Thank you. And Mr. Cirillo.
Thank you, Donna. I stand here as your neighbor. I became involved in our communities 20 years ago. We walked the Valley Road corridor. I remember with my friend Rose DeSena, with Bill Sullivan, and since then, the result of our work, right? We have a new arts theater. We have a new police substation. Don Juan's came into town. We have a Central Avenue redevelopment. We have a police substation. New restaurants coming in, and now I'm advocating for a new Manhattan stop, Midtown Direct at the Highland Avenue station. So that's, I'm glad to see everyone out, and I hope that you see that and become encouraged to get involved in our community. Get involved and learn about what's going on. Visit our website. I recall there was a link, and I don't know if it's still there, with a list of all the different entities that the Councilwoman McCartney mentioned that you can join. So please get involved and be encouraged. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The West Orange Health Department has recently been in the news regarding unsanitary conditions and inadequate zoning compliance around town. If elected or re-elected, what would be your first step in making these 2 departments more efficient? And we'll start with Ms. Perkowski.
So I think with some of the recent health issues that have come up, certainly unfortunate incidents both in the school buildings as well as the town buildings, and something that people couldn't have predicted. I think where we failed was, again, in the communication aspect. So we all know that their action was taken or initiated. Communication didn't happen for several days to several weeks after that started. So I think that we need to certainly take a different approach and have a different vision about how we engage our community. And again, this speaks to transparency. So something has gone wrong, instead of brushing it under the rug until there is a solution, let's alert people, let's let them know what's going on, let's engage, let's ask for community feedback if it's necessary. We've got so many talented people in town that might be able to step up and help and jump in immediately versus waiting for other professionals. So I think that the town ultimately did the right thing in addressing the issues, but from a communication standpoint, we failed.
Thank you. Ms. Scarpa.
This is a very serious issue. I really do think that we need to take a closer look at what we're doing in the health department. We need to look at policies and procedures that are currently in place. I believe they need to be enhanced. I do not believe that we reacted quickly enough, and I believe it's a little bit more than a matter of communications. And this is something that really affects the health and well-being of our citizens here in the township and in our schools. I work in the schools, and there were serious problems. We had parents who got up at a Board of Ed meeting and complained about how filthy Washington School was. To Mr. Rutsky's credit, he did address it. He rearranged, got new janitors and new management procedures in place. But I'm in a school that really needs a little overhaul.
Thank you. And next, Ms. Matute-Brown.
I would ask for our leadership, our elected officials, to take a proactive approach when looking at the policies that we implement and the procedures that we currently have. While there is no state requirement for those policies, we should be proactive in making sure that we have those in place. I'm hoping that that is something that will happen sooner than later. I do agree that communication, it was not poor. I'm sorry, but it was negligent, because our students were and our children were in summer school in those buildings, and there was a complete neglect to advise our parents and our community members, not to mention the police station, the municipal buildings. People are going to work every day filling up their water bottles, and no one thought to tell our employees. I think that is neglectful management, and that needs to be addressed. So I would support being proactive and seeking out policies and procedures and revamping them.
Thank you. Mr. Cirillo?
Yes, Donna, can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. I have so many questions in front of me.
That's good.
The West Orange Health Department has recently been in the news, unsanitary conditions and inadequate zoning compliance around town. If elected or re-elected, what would be your first step to making these two departments more efficient?
Sure. We become more educated on the potential hazards. We went back to the 70s. It was a different world that we lived in, and we continue to learn more about what goes on and what can be detrimental to our public health. So we need to continue to be proactive as opposed to reactive. With respect to the recent issue at Municipal Town Hall, we reacted accordingly. It's my opinion. It's not something that we could have expected. But as I mentioned, in the future, going forward, we have to make sure that our health department is educated on what's happening with respect to environmental hazards and be more proactive.
Thank you. And Mrs. McCartney?
So to this day, I am still surprised that there are no DCA or OSHA regulations that could have prevented that unforeseen condition in our municipal buildings and in our schools. So with the professional services that are in place, we are asking for recommendations. We're hearing different things on how to handle that. So with this being in the news, and for the sake of all of our residents, regulations do need to be put in place. I believe that the administration and the school district did respond. They reacted appropriately to handle the conditions, but I do believe that communication was lacking. I think they were caught up in getting the issue resolved, but forgot to bring the community along with them. That there does need to be a better communication on what is being presented to the public.
Thank you. Okay, there's a couple questions. The mayor and town council members appoint all the committee members. So how do we get fresh ideas? And for people who have gone on the website and signed up and a couple years later have never been contacted, what is your opinion on that? And also, would you ever consider increasing the size of the town council with the increase in the population? And we'll start with Ms. Scarpa.
I haven't thought about it, but it might be a good idea to increase the number of town council members and get a wider and more diverse perspective. It's something I think we could think about. In terms of appointing appointees to the council, I think, there should be council people who do make appointments because they probably do have an idea of the types of persons who would be good for certain things, but there should also be more of a opportunity for residents to get involved as well.
Thank you. Mrs. Matute-Brown?
Thank you. I agree that size of this council should be increased. We have a lot. We live in a large town. I've come to know just how much larger it is than I thought it was when we've been out canvassing. And one of the residents that I came across thought that their area is not represented and thought that maybe it would be a better idea to do, increase the size of the town council as far as making sure that there's representation for everyone in the district. With respect to the mayoral appointees, I couldn't agree more. I think that we have to come up with a different way of doing that so that we can be more inclusive and more members of the community can participate, whether that is forming committees, whether people sign up and it's not an appointment. I know that there is a volunteer list at the town hall, but the culture needs to change where we open the doors to more than just those who continue to participate.
Thank you. Mr. Cirillo.
Thank you very much. The structure of local government is governed by the Faulkner Act, and there is a process. If the community feels that we need a different structure, just look into the Faulkner Act, and but whether I support it or not, I believe that we have sufficient council people, that the size of local government in West Orange and the system is sufficient, but if the voters feel otherwise, it's the Faulkner Act that we need to look at. As it relates to the appointments, we have a diverse system of appointments. Some are mayoral, some are council, some are just volunteer on a volunteer basis. So we have a little bit of everything. Should the participation process be limited, we can always go back and look at those ordinances and revamp so that the members of the public don't feel disenfranchised.
Thank you. Mrs. McCartney?
I'm sorry to hear people feel that they have not been heard. We get phone calls all the time. I also listed, those were just the organizations that I'm involved in. There are so many more community organizations, and even just tonight with the African Heritage Group, that's one more organization way to volunteer. I know people that have reached out to me, and they are volunteering in the health department just to work on grants. They're not employees, this is their area and expertise, and there's a resident right now that's just doing this on her own. I think if anyone wants to get involved, it's really just a phone call away, because I believe between the Downtown Alliance, just looking around the room, the people that are already involved in so many organizations have already stepped up, and if you have someone that you feel needs to be heard, then we are all about listening. That just happened today with a conversation with someone that received a letter from me, reached out, and it's really just a phone call away that we can address issues that can be resolved.
Thank you. And Ms. Perkowski?
With regard to the size of the council, I think I understand back in the late 90s there was a study that was undertaken to explore the current form of government and the size of the council, and it was determined that this was the right fit for West Orange. I think it's a great idea to commence a new study. Certainly I don't think 5 of us up here would make that decision, but if there was enough evidence to shift over to a bigger council, I think that certainly makes sense. With the volunteer things, I think that many people don't know that I think the appointee position should still exist, but most, if not all of those commissions also encourage and welcome volunteers. The problem, again, is that people don't know that. So it comes back to communication, it comes back to how we're engaging the community. I support things like community boards with posted materials, more public meetings where we're having community be able to speak back to us about what's going on in town. We've got opportunities for some of those volunteer organizations or commissions to set up tables or information stations so we can get the word out. We used to do a consistent new resident thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next question has to do with the relationship with the West Orange Police Department and the community. What would you do to enhance community-police relations? And we'll start with Mrs. Matute-Brown.
I think we would revisit the unity rally we had in support of the police officers in our community to bridge that gap 2 years ago. It was started by the HRC and some very innovative minds decided, let's get together with our community residents and let's heal these relationships that we've watched for quite some time be strained on a national level, and before that were to get here, let's just make sure that we're bonding with our officers so that our community residents feel comfortable in those relationships and those spaces. So I would certainly encourage that with respect to community relations.
Thank you, and we're going to go to Mr. Cirillo, but I just have an announcement. License plate N28HNA is a blue Volkswagen. Your lights are on. Sorry for the interruption. Mr. Cirillo, you're next.
Thank you very much. The question on police, We have invested on bike patrols and some Harley Davidsons over the last 8 years, just to get the cops out there, the police officers, to develop better relationships with our community. We have some of the best police officers. I got to tell you, I have to commend the police force and the men and women in blue. They're doing a great job, and I'm so proud to say I'm from West Orange. So anything that we can do to continue that, I wholeheartedly support.
Thank you. And next, Mrs. McCartney.
So on the council, I will continue to commend and support our police department. We do not negotiate their contracts, which is something that needs to get done. We have always tried to be fair and reasonable with our police department. It's an outstanding force. The police on their own have done so much to be engaged with the community, setting up the coffee with the cops. We have grants pending for new equipment. We just approved more mobile data terminals for the police, for license readers. There's so many things that the council has appropriated funds to continue. Public safety is of utmost importance to all of us, and the Uniform Police Code, as of the third quarter, our numbers are good. They are lower than they have been in the past, and we just continue to support the needs of our police department.
Thank you. Ms. Perskowski.
I think so. Some of our activities, as was mentioned, the Unity Rally was excellent. Some of the community meetings that have had some of the officers in attendance were great as well. I think that type of program needs to be expanded. So unfortunately, the last one was middle of the day on a weekday when most people work. So that wasn't the best timing on that, but I think conceptually it made sense. I'd love to see that expand to different neighborhoods in the community, so it doesn't seem like everyone's traveling to one spot. So we could do it, down in the valley and down off of Main Street, et cetera, all over, so we can encourage some of those local residents to come out and meet some of the cops that they're seeing day to day as well.
Thank you. And Ms. Scarpa.
I just think the world of our police department. I've worked with them a little bit with Operation Hope, and Chief Abbott, of course, is wonderful. All of our police officers remind me of that friendly policeman that I read about in first grade in my first reader. When I compare them to police officers I encounter in surrounding towns, it's just apples and oranges. In other towns, they hide and they spring out and give you tickets. In our town, I feel like our police department is there to protect and support, and I really appreciate all of them. I think if we got them out on the street a little bit more and in our communities, it might bridge some of those gaps that we have.
Thank you. The next question is, would you support greater protections for seniors and the disabled as it pertains to rent controls within the township? If so, specifically, what would you consider fair? And we'll start with Mr. Cirillo.
Sure. We have some senior citizen buildings throughout the township. We have the Renner House, we have the Degnan House, and they have controlled rents. So we prioritize West Orange residents that may be struggling and on limited incomes. As it relates to the rent control ordinance, I sit on that board, so I work with Steve Condon to assure that the rents are fair and equitable, and we'll continue to do the best that we can to safeguard our senior citizens with respect to any burden that they may feel financially on rents.
Thank you. Mrs. McCartney?
I think that was the answer. The answer is that we do have rent control in the houses that we do have here in town for our seniors. We have so many services already that allow seniors to age in place. The health department has been noted to be a model of the state. I started to say before about some of the services that we already provide. There is a national toolkit. When we talk about communication, this could be one of the educational forums that we have. about a national toolkit about how to plan and prepare to age in place. I have also been able to find educational videos through the state from the Aging Foundation that are posted on our local access channel to help our seniors as well.
Thank you. Ms. Perkowski?
I also would be supportive of implementing some new measures for rent control. I think it should certainly be tied to individuals' financial abilities to pay, so I think we can explore some more investigation into that. I also believe it becomes incumbent on us to make sure that our affordable housing requirements are being met, so that expands the pool of residences that seniors are able to come into at a rate that's affordable for them.
Thank you. Ms. Scarpa?
I think it's very important that we create an environment where our seniors can age in place and where we take care of the disabled. I believe that we should explore any areas we can where we can stabilize the rents for them, and through the use of our affordable housing requirements, which we're looking at now in many different areas where, you know, developers are building residential housing. There's a portion that needs to be set aside for affordable housing. It would be nice if we can use some of that to take care of our seniors.
Thank you. And Mrs. Matute-Brown?
I do agree that we should visit or review the options for rent control. While we do have senior citizen dwellings in West Orange, like many other districts, there are wait lists, so not everyone who needs an affordable rent-controlled apartment is able to access them. So I think with respect to having that as a forethought, that we should consider and review policies that would help safeguard our senior citizens with affordable living, as well as our handicapped and disabled. Just briefly, I met a couple, Ken and Regina, through canvassing, who have 2 years left on their pension, and then they have to move because they can no longer continue to afford that. These are real concerns that we have to address before we're, forcing our residents out of their homes.
Thank you. Thank you. The next question is, the council has had almost 10 years to look for the relocation for the maintenance vehicles, school buses, and services. What is the status? And we'll start with Mrs. McCartney.
That's a very good question, because I don't understand the question truthfully. If you're talking about Lakeside Avenue or the Department of Public Works, is that what you're talking about?
I assume that the author of the question is...
That may be a school board question.
Oh, okay. Well then, I'm sorry. I didn't realize when I read that was just... Okay, then we'll go on to the next question.
All right. If that's a two-part question, because if you're talking about relocating our Department of Public Works, or even just to follow up on the question that was just brought about senior housing, one of the reasons that I did vote on the Essex Green area needed redevelopment was to address that. If we find through stakeholder meetings that that is something that we need additional housing for seniors, then that is something we could look at in the Essex Green area. Relocating Department of Public Works has been on the forefront. You're saying for 10 years? Is that the question? I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted.
I'm not from West Orange, so
Okay.
if this is a school board question, then we'll just move on. So we'll just move on. Okay. Okay, we'll move on to the next question. Let me see here, where was I? 'Cause now I'm a little... do you favor any future plans of affordable housing for young adults living in or moving back to West Orange, and more or other methods of public transportation? So we will start with Ms. Perkowski.
So I think certainly, yes, and I think from an affordable housing standpoint, young residents coming back to town, or seniors, or those with lower incomes for whatever variety of reasons, that would fit the same bill. So I certainly think that those opportunities should be available, and hopefully will be soon as we see some of our new developments formulate. And I would love to see more transportation throughout West Orange. So the feasibility of having a train through West Orange is probably low, but certainly if we could work with some of the bus companies to incorporate additional bus lines that come through. We've gotten many suggestions to implement some type of trolley, particularly that goes from the parts of town near Northfield Avenue or Pleasant Valley Way down to Main Street, or even that runs just along Main Street. I think that is something that is interesting and fun and different and gets more residents down to see our downtown area. I would certainly be in support of something like that, even with the trial period starting on weekends.
Thank you. Ms. Scarpa?
Yeah, I think that would be an excellent idea as well. I think we really need to enhance transportation services, and Montclair has done that. They've got a bus at a transport seniors, not just seniors, but they call it a community because they didn't want to designate seniors as a group, and they have a community bus which really does accommodate seniors and all of the other people in town. And it kind of goes around to the main points so that people get around to shopping and all different things. And I think that would be really important for us to have too. I love the idea of the trolley. I actually thought about that myself when I saw it running around town. And then I thought, well, would that hold up as a transportation vehicle? But it looks great. But we really do need to do something, particularly for our seniors who need to get up to the JCC. They need to get to Essex Green for shopping, and it's particularly for food shopping. So I think that's important to do.
Thank you. Mrs. Matute-Brown?
As a parent of young adults, I say yes. I think that it is something that we need to consider with respect to our young students moving back, because it's a national issue for parents whose children who have graduated from college or technical schools that unfortunately the job market is not there for them. So I think exploring incentives, becoming more innovative where we can bring our students back, our children back to live independently, invest in their human capital and make sure that they are able to help sustain themselves while sustaining our businesses in town. So I would be supportive of that.
Thank you. Mr. Cirillo?
Yes, on the affordability issue, the Council on Affordable Housing has required us to begin meeting our requirement. We're building 100 units on Central Avenue of affordable housing. And then phase 2 of the Main Street redevelopment will also have an affordability component. And on top of that, we have hundreds of units that we still need to comply with. So we are on our way to having quality affordable housing as directed by the state of New Jersey. On transportation, we have New Jersey Transit, Line 73, Line 71, coach buses into New York City. We added a 6th jitney line during my last term. I wholeheartedly support the jitney service that we're extending, which, by the way, doubles as senior transportation during the day. We just purchased new jitneys, 3 new jitneys, and I think we're doing a decent job with public transportation. We'll continue the progress.
Thank you. And Mrs. McCartney?
So we did just add an additional jitney, We have 6 jitneys that cover all areas of town. We were very happy to put that in place. We have commuter lots that help people get to where they need to go in various locations in town. And the redevelopment project on Central Avenue, does have an affordable housing component to that. The redevelopment project on Central Avenue, I am thrilled that is underway. That the orange side has already been built. It is 100% occupied. West Orange is getting a mirror image of that building. It looks like a magnificent hotel. The stream has been daylighted. That is the border between the two, and it is 500 feet from the Highland Avenue station. So I think, no pun intended, all the wheels are in motion to support public transportation in our town and affordable housing.
Thank you very much. I think we have time for one more question before we go to the closing statements. So, how will the schools be impacted with the new residential developments? What will you do to ensure that our schools do not become overcrowded? And we'll start with Ms. Prokowski.
So certainly, I don't think I can predict how the schools will be impacted, but it's certainly a concern. I know we've seen some of the studies that PRISM presented for phase 1. It seems like their predictions are proving to be true, at least for the areas that are rented already. My concern for phase 2, when we get into townhouses and larger spaces, is that it might become more attractive to students and families. Again, not to beat the drum, but this kind of goes back to that planning concept. So when and if we ever work with a planner who is kind of driving that development and working with those developers, the school planning aspect and what the developer is contributing back to the town to accommodate for that all comes in the planning phase. So we've missed the boat a little bit, I think, with that project, but for projects of the future, I think that's part of the reason that it's critical to have someone in place to help us do that, to make sure all of those things are being considered in advance.
Thank you. Ms. Scarpa?
Since I am in the schools, I am very much concerned about this issue because our schools are overcrowded. We have trailers that we have not been able to get rid of. We have larger classroom sizes. And we all know the research that when room size is smaller, children get a better education. We see children with such diverse skill sets and abilities all in the same classroom, and it is overwhelming for many of our teachers. They do an incredible job with the many diverse and educationally different children that they have to educate. So I believe that this will be a problem, and I think it should be something we could address and should address with the planner. I think if we had a planner, a town planner, they would be working with the school system to work on this problem.
Thank you. Mrs. Matute-Brown.
I remember attending a board meeting several months ago, maybe even a year ago, where they did a demographic study on the population of students with respect to, the new developments that are coming to West Orange and are here in West Orange. And while the study itself did not predict that was an issue, I have to listen to the people who are in the classroom with 29 students in a classroom, which is far too much. So I think that we certainly need to address the issue with vision, planning, strategic planning, and it's something that we need to consider, with respect to someone who knows what they're doing with town planning and innovation and possibly looking at expanding, not where the trailers are, but possibly expanding the school, particularly high school. I know it's big enough, but the students, when they're changing periods, are really, it's almost like cattle herding in there, unfortunately. But we need to help relieve the school district like.
Thank you. Mr. Cirillo.
The truth is that West Orange is a destination for families with kids. My neighbor Bob and I are really happy to see that we're going to have 2 new kids running around on Benvenue Avenue. A lot of you raise your children or are raising your children in West Orange. It's a destination for children. We can't put up a wall and say, no more children here. We just have to come up with a solution on how to address that. How to work together, municipal government and the Board of Education, on addressing the taxation burdens. We have to be a little bit more fiscally responsible. We have to come up with shared services ideas, such as we've worked on the improvement of the athletic facilities together with the Board of Education, Gregory Avenue School, with that safety issue. We have to come up with ideas on how municipal government, which is my opinion, is being run very fiscally responsible, can work together with the Board of Education to offset any potential burdens created by families. But West Orange will continue to be a destination for young families, and we like it that way.
Thank you. And Mrs. McCartney.
So vote campaigning door to door, we are seeing a lot of new residents and a lot of young families, and the first thing they say is that they do their research and they are attracted to West Orange because of our public schools. Having been on the planning board, we do have consultants and financial planners that look at at each application if it is to bring in new students, and we gauge that. That was true on Main Street redevelopment project because initially there were many more 2 and 3 bedroom apartments, and we reduced the number to 1 bedroom apartments, a greater number, to avoid situations like that. So that is constantly looked at with each application that is presented to the planning board.
Thank you. At this time, we will go to the closing statements, and we will do them in the opposite order of the opening statements. So, Ms. Scarpa, you will go first. You have a minute and a half.
For the 4th year in a row, we've increased the tax levy by 2%, which is the state maximum increase allowed without requiring a voter referendum. If given a voice, if we put referendum for spending on the ballot, as it was the case when I was growing up in West Orange, I believe residents would say no to some of the frivolous spending and overpriced projects that are not competitively bid. I remember sitting around the kitchen table with my family when I was growing up, and we would talk about the different referendums that were on the ballot. My mother would always say, I vote for all of the referendums for the schools because the schools need it. And my dad would say, but what is the price? So I think it's very, very important that we keep taxpayers in mind, and our elected officials have no longer given residents that voice, and we need to put referendums back on the ballot for the taxpayers. Our national elections have taught us that elections have consequences and reminds us how important it is to voice your opinion on who will lead our nation, our president. And also, I hope we've convinced you tonight that municipal elections profoundly affect you, not only in terms of your taxes that you will pay for years to come if irresponsible redevelopment efforts continue and budget projects and services are not competitively bid.
Thank you. And we'll go to Ms. Krakowski.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight and certainly for submitting your questions. I think it's been a great opportunity to share some of our viewpoints. As I mentioned in the beginning, in 2016, I ran for this office unsuccessfully. And the day after I lost that election, I began preparation for 2 weeks from today. So I have spent the last 2 years watching and listening and visiting and meeting with town planner after town planner and officials both inside and outside of West Orange. So I offer you now that experience as well as my prior business experience that certainly has prepared me for the difficult decisions that council women and men are expected to make. I offer you a different perspective, one that is solely my own, and the ability to investigate opportunities and to think critically about our future. And I offer you a candidate who's willing to work with anyone who's elected and to consistently seek continued feedback from the community and insight from all of you. So after you've considered everything here tonight, I hope that you'll vote for me, Monica Perkowski, on November 6th.
Thank you. Mrs. McCartney.
So I am and have been honored to be a member of the West Orange Town Council, and in doing so I have tried to be a voice of reason. I knew early on how important it is to find ways to stabilize our taxes. During my tenure on the Township Council, I strive to control municipal spending. Despite the economic downturn in 2008, West Orange has had the lowest municipal tax increase of any municipality in Essex County over the last 10 years. I've initiated many grants and initiatives that have a direct impact on protecting our environment and conserving our tax dollars. I am seeking your vote on Election Day to use my leadership experience, creative energy, and resourcefulness to preserve our safe, characteristically beautiful that I see every night campaigning, sustainable and prosperous community.
Thank you. Mr. Cirillo?
Thank you very much. I commend our fellow candidates for seeking to represent you on the Township Council. Unfortunately, we can only choose two. And I'm one of the candidates, as you know, that's running for re-election. I'm your neighbor. I'm just your neighbor, your next door neighbor. Just happens to understand local government, grounded on the fiscal realities. We administer 25 cents of your municipal tax dollar. We are proud of the quality municipal services that we're extending for those 25 cents. And if you re-elect me, I will assure you that we'll continue the progress, we'll continue being fiscally responsible, reinvesting in West Orange. We need to reinvest. If not, we will have issues with our township. We experienced that during a period where in 2010, when we were first elected, where we had a difficult economy and we were scared that it would affect West Orange. We bounced off from that. Over the last 10 years, West Orange has the lowest municipal tax increase, the lowest out of any municipality in Essex County, one of the most expensive municipalities. And I stand by our record, and I hope that you allow me to continue that progress and continue to represent you on the Township Council. So consider me for one of your two council votes on November 6th. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Mrs. Matute-Brown.
Hi, so I decided to run for town council because I believe that my life experiences, I'm a union leader, I am an educator, and I also have the experience of being an advocate for you here in town as well as other organizations. I think that allows me the ability to represent inclusively all of the members and listen to all of the voices and bring all of the voices to the table, all of your needs. And I seek to change the direction with which we've been governing West Orange with respect to a broader vision to bring value to our community, to make sure that we make the investments now that will continue to sustain us for the next 20 years. We need a broader perspective. We need innovation. We need to continue to seek out experts. We need to bring you all to the table as well. In preparation for my first time running for public office, I've done a lot of research. I've attended a lot of board meetings, council meetings, zoning board meetings, and know that we are in need of a change. So I come to you looking for you to help us bring the change that we so desperately need in West Orange. In preparation for this forum, I watched the last two debates, and the issues are exactly the same. So we continue doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. I'm here to bring change, innovation, and be a voice for everyone in West Orange. I hope you vote for me on November 6th.
Thank you. And now before everybody gets up to move, you may applaud all the candidates. Thank you all for being such an incredibly good audience. You are very lucky and you have good candidates, so please remember to vote. I also want to thank our timekeeper, and I'd like to introduce Althea, who would like to do some closing remarks.
I want to thank you all for coming out. I hope you got a better insight into the candidates and then their platform. I'd also like to thank the members of the West Orange African Heritage that got to help make this come to fruition. With my executive board members stand and committee chairs, please stand so we can see who you are. Executive board members stand and committee chairs if you're here. Please stand. Thank you. Without further ado, I would hope that you would join our organization. We're really busy in town. We have 5 schools that we tutor. We celebrate Black History Month. We celebrate 2 galas to men and men who cook so that we can raise money for our organization. So please come out and join us. I want to thank Ms. Donna, who is the League of Women Voters. And I want to thank all of you for coming out and the church for allowing us to be here. Did I miss anyone? If I didn't, thank everybody.